We'll start with the thesis on Feuerbach, which was written in 1845 by Karl Marx. These are simply 11 short philosophical notes written by Karl Marx, and in the sixth note we get a little glimpse of what Marx has to say about human nature. In short, Marx says that human nature is nothing more than what the building blocks of social relations makes of it. Now that is one view. In the 1844 manuscripts though, the economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1844, aka the Paris manuscripts, which are a series of notes written by Karl Marx between April and August, but published in 1932 after his death, we find that Karl Marx quotes, "Man is directly a natural being. As a natural being and as a living natural being, he is on the one hand endowed with natural powers, vital powers. He is an active natural being. These forces exist in him as tendencies and abilities, as instincts. On the other hand, as a natural, corporeal, sensuous, objective being, he is a suffering, conditioned, and limited creature, like animals and plants. That is to say, the objects of his instincts exist outside him as objects independent of him, yet these objects are objects that he needs, essential objects, indispensable to the manifestation and confirmation of his essential powers." We also find that Karl Marx saw that human nature was expressed in a drive to fulfill the need to creatively produce products that would be helpful to society and to, of course, satisfy themselves. Karl Marx says that humans are very different to other animals because they themselves begin to distinguish themselves from animals as soon as they begin to produce their means of subsistence, a step which is conditioned by their physical organization. Marx also makes the point that humans produce their physical environments. Sure, says Marx, animals also produce. They build nests and dwellings like the bee, the beaver, the ant, etc. But they produce only their own immediate needs or those of their young. They produce only when immediate physical need compels them to do so, while man produces even when he is free from physical need, and truly produces only in freedom from such need. They produce only themselves, while man reproduces the whole of nature. Their products belong immediately to their physical bodies, while man freely confronts his own product. Animals produce only according to the standards and needs of the species to which they belong, while man is capable of producing according to the standards of every species and of applying to each object its inherent standard. Hence, man also produces in accordance with the laws of beauty. Karl Marx also states that animals become one with their activity, that they are not distinct from that activity. In fact, animals are the activity that they do. Man, on the other hand, makes his life activity itself an object of his will and consciousness. He has conscious life activity. It is not a determination with which he directly merges. Conscious life activity directly distinguishes man from animal life activity. Only because of that is he a species being, or rather he is a conscious being. For example, his own life is an object for him only because he is a species being. Only because of that is his activity free activity. Estranged labor reverses the relationship so that man, just because he is a conscious being, makes his life activity his essential being, a mere means for his existence. In Capital, also known as Das Kapital, Karl Marx quotes, "A spider conducts operations that resembles those of a weaver, and a bee puts to shame many an architect in the construction of her cells. But what distinguishes the worst architect from the best of bees is this, that the architect raises his structure in imagination before he erects it in reality. At the end of every labor process, we get a result that already existed in the imagination of the laborer at its commencement. He not only effects a change of form in the material on which he works, but he also realizes a purpose of his own that gives the law to his modus operandi, and to which he must subordinate his will. And this subordination is no mere momentary act." Let's summarize this part. Whatever we have said until now, let's try to compile it into something more short, more concise, more understandable. Karl Marx believes that we produce our own environment, and that we would do that even if there was no pressure upon us. We would produce the whole of our nature, and we would create in accordance with the laws of beauty. We are creative creatures. We produce with a purpose, with a plan in mind. We also plan for our future activities too, and we exercise this production. We make our lives our activity, and the human existence is our will. Moving on, let's talk about Marx's theory of history in relation to human nature. Karl Marx makes a very surprising point that not only do the objective conditions change in the act of reproduction, for example, the village becomes a town, the wilderness a clear field, but the producers change too, in that they bring out new qualities in themselves, develop themselves in production, transform themselves, develop new powers and ideas, new modes of intercourse, new needs, and new language. He also says that history does nothing. It has no immense wealth. It wages no battles. In fact, it is humans that do all of it. They possess, they fight. History is not, as it were, a person apart, and history is simply nothing but the very activity of humans pursuing their own aims. We can clearly see that from all that we have said until now, it is us that takes action to create a world for ourselves, to change the world and ourselves. By doing all of this, we create quote-unquote history. Furthermore, Karl Marx sees that the individual satisfaction relies upon the satisfaction of the other. Knowing this makes sense of Karl Marx's theory of alienation, which suggests that man is alienated from the production process, from their fellow man, and from himself too. We become, as we stated earlier, like animals, because then we only work under the burden of filling a physical gap. For the sake of a direct physical need, we become alienated from our life activity. Our life's activity is then directed by another, by our bosses, by the leaders, by the people that control us. We are not living for ourselves, not creating for ourselves as much as we would like to. Now we are in the hands of the people who direct us, which causes us to alienate the product of labor, the process of labor, other fellow beings, and ourselves. And I think we can wrap it up here. We've discussed a plethora of views by Karl Marx on human nature. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if so, do consider subscribing. If you have any suggestions, please do write it down in the comment section, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you.